Okay, my name is Tristan Wong from SJB Architects. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this project is located and which we're presenting. Pay my respects to elders past, present and future. This project's called Zero Gipps, located in Collingwood. It was for our client called Dev Property. It was built by Coven and project management by Fontic. The client really came to us with the idea of wanting to create a commercial building that separated itself from a lot of more traditional office buildings that have ceiling tiles and cold, sterile environment, and do something a lot more sustainable in how it was created, how the spaces worked and whatnot. So that's what the task we set out to do was. So it does present as quite a different office building. We've minimised obviously things like glass. We've really encouraged walkability. I'll kind of get to all of those things in a minute. It's located in Collingwood, as I said, very close to the CBD. There's a number of key cycling tracks as well that run near it, so we were able to demonstrate a lot of good networks in and around the site. It's very heavily industrial focused, obviously. You can see a lot of the sawtooth roofs, small warehouse buildings that surround the site, and it has this incredible configuration and proportion to the site, being barely 10 metres wide by 60 metres long. So that was quite a challenge and an opportunity at the same time to deal with such a long site. The old building is not heritage, but we actually saw that as an opportunity and something we wanted to embrace. So we ultimately kept the old building. We stripped off the render, but kept all the brickwork. The beautiful steel windows and hopper windows were all kept and painted and reglazed. So there was this idea of keeping existing fabric in Collingwood and not just discarding it. And it had been, the client had owned it for 20 years, so we thought keeping a memory of the building he had owned for a long time was a good thing as well. So really quick built form concept, retain the existing building if we could, and there was a strong desire to do so. Create two separated building forms. The site is so long that to get light into the middle and to preserve some light that comes through at an angle in the afternoon to the neighbouring property, and to reduce the built form, it was necessary to break the built form. And the last image is showing this notion of stitching the old and the new. So how would the new building meet the old building? We did that through a number of things, gestures and ways, but one of them is actually we created window alignments with the old building. So all the new windows align with the old building, and we use a clay-based material and so on. A lot of sketching was done in the process of this project, where we explored things like what the sense of arrival, where the buildings separate. That was going to be a real opportunity for the arrival, promote walkability, have an open staircase, open linking bridges, all these things. How we used the bricks was really interesting as well and very complex. So some of the bricks actually shiplap over one another, creating an almost sawtooth configuration, like the sawtooth roofs. They're in stack bond, stretcher bond, all these different patterns as well. So there's kind of a tapestry of brickwork you'll see. So that exploded sort of axo showing the new insertion through the mid portion, the main part of the building sitting on top of the old building, and then a couple more levels that sit atop that. There's extensive PV solar panels that you'll see in a minute and how we got that to work and the amount of kilowatts generated. This is that central courtyard and active zone, the idea of a sort of social arena. The building is treated like a cut through, like you're cutting into an ants farm, and you can see silhouettes of people within the building, but we also had to protect neighbouring properties from overlooking. So they do have clay battens over the top of the windows. So that's kind of where you end up. Energy use, we had over 100 solar panels on the roof generating around 25 to 30 kilowatts, which with a lot of the calculations I was doing was generating a huge amount of the power for the building. The responsive facade, so we have these shrouds that are angled. They're actually a nod to the hopper windows you see in the old warehouse building. They provide solar control. They're not just one little shroud, they're actually done 3 per level, as you can see. Occupant wellness, walkability with that third image, the open stair, all these things. We don't like people being in a concrete tube, they never use it. So put it outdoors and make it this wonderful viewing platform. When you walk up there, the views out over Collingwood are incredible. Green transport, incredibly, this project would be one of the few, if only I think, in the city of Yarra that has no cars. And council, as we know, even projects like Nightingale have struggled to do no cars on a project. As obviously council sees that you're otherwise adding cars into streets that are already challenged with cars. So to get no car permit was quite incredible. We have extensive bike facilities, almost 50 bikes on site. which was a ratio of 1 to 4. Green Star only required us to have about 16 to 20 bikes, so we've gone double that. There's productive gardens, enhancing kind of ecology and microbiodiversity. The breathable facade, very few office buildings have openable windows. So we have a mixed mode mechanical that allows the building to breathe, and people can open windows if they want to on many of the days that are perfect to have just fresh air. Sustainable materials being obviously the clay, the use of clay-based materials, and of course reuse, retention of the existing building. I think I've gone through all of that. And all electric, of course, as well. So importantly, this building, you come into the centre of the building, you don't enter off Gipps Street. That was another challenge to get through council. They want entrances to go off main streets. This street is a laneway and it has no name actually. It's an extension of Rockaby Street, but it's actually a lane. We were able to convince them to have the entrance off the centre of the building because the built form's split, and so you can get into the two sides of the building. And it ends up being this wonderful space where people kind of congregate. There's a small cafe there. There's this amphitheatre seating in there as well. So it's a really wonderful arrival social space. Also uncommon for commercial buildings, the end of trip facilities, those are unisex, non-gender specific bathrooms and showers, which that's also quite uncommon. The bike room housing many more bikes than proportionally to other office buildings. Going up through the office plate, they were left as sort of open plan spaces that could be adapted and used as tenants came in, obviously. There's only one lift. We didn't want a lift on both sides. We're trying to reduce the reliance on mechanical circulation. There's a future restaurant and there's a garden, obviously, on the north part of the site, and the productive garden is actually on the southern portion of the site. So how are the buildings now looking? So again, we've kept the old building, the old warehouse. We actually pulled back all that render. It looks more beautiful than it probably did previously. You now enter down the laneway and come into this new kind of steel framed window. A lot of that was to reflect the old steel frames that are used on the warehouse building. And there's this great space where people come in and park their bikes, walk up to their tenancies. The little cafe hasn't been fitted out yet. The bricks on the ground were for some walls that had to be knocked down on the site, and we wanted to reuse them and not discard them, obviously. Simple use of materiality, express concrete, not just adding additional superfluous linings, not adding lining ceilings. So we were really, there's a couple of thousand square metres of reduced material just through not adding more surfaces that were not necessarily useful. Signage was really basic paint on walls. We wanted it to be graphically strong, but simply done. The stair that has these incredible views, as I said, and people really use it. And you can see the way the shading works on the north-facing facades, hand-welded galvanised steel balustrades and linking walkways. That's it.